Now so far, we have created strings and have been able to access characters from the strings by indexing and slicing. Now an important thing to know is that strings are what are known as immutable objects. Now this means that elements of a string cannot be changed once they have been assigned. So for example, if we were to try and change the first letter of the word hello, you may think that we can index the first value by passing in 0 into square brackets and then assigning a new letter by putting an equal sign and then putting the new letter accordingly. So let's try changing it to the letter T. You can see that when we try to run this code, we run into a type error, telling us that string objects do not support item assignment. And that's because they are immutable and a string cannot be changed once it's been created. Now in order to change a string, we can simply reassign different strings to the same variable name. So to change the value stored in the variable word, we can assign a completely new string. So let's set this equal to goodbye. When we take a look at what is stored in the variable word now, you can see that this has been updated to goodbye. So we cannot change a string once it's been created as it is immutable, but we can overwrite the string object and store different values inside. Now in a similar vein, we cannot delete or remove characters from a string. So if I try to delete a single element from the variable word, so if I type the built-in del keyword and then follow this with the variable word, and inside square brackets pass in index 3, which is the letter D in goodbye, you can see that we run into a type error, telling us that string objects do not support item deletion. And why is this? It's because they are immutable. However, we are able to delete the string in its entirety using the del keyword. So if you no longer need to reference a variable which stores a string object, you can use the del keyword. So if I type del and then follow this with the variable that we want to delete, so in this case the variable word, you can see that when we run this code cell, nothing looks obvious on screen, but if I now try to reference the variable word, we run into a name error, and we're told that name word is not defined, and that's because we've deleted the word variable. So in short, strings are immutable objects, and therefore specific elements cannot be changed once they've been created. You can, however, change the variable to a completely new string, and you can also delete the variable that stores the string object in its entirety. In the next video, we'll take a look at what is known as string concatenation. Now sometimes when you're programming, you'll run into the need to join strings together, and this is what is known as string concatenation. Now the way that we can join strings together in Python is by using the plus operator. So for example, if I had the string hello, I could then plus to this string hello an empty space, and then I could plus to the string hello with an empty space the word world with an exclamation mark. When I then run this cell, you can see that we get one string returned to the screen which states hello world with a space in between. And this is because we've concatenated 3 separate strings into one string. So with this in mind, let's now create a variable called welcome and set this equal to the string welcome to the game. We can then put a comma and then we'll put a space. We'll then set a second variable called name and we'll set this equal to Julie. We'll then set a third variable called instructions and we'll set this equal first to an exclamation mark, and then we'll put you need to collect as many coins as possible, exclamation mark. So seeing as we're now storing 3 string objects within these variables respectively, we can now concatenate them by putting welcome plus then the name variable, then we can plus the instructions variable, and when we run this code cell, you can see we return to the screen, welcome to the game, Julie. You need to collect as many coins as possible. So by simply using the plus symbol, we're able to join strings together that then returns a single string. Now alternatively, we can also concatenate strings by simply writing two literal strings together. So for example, if I put hello in single quotes, and then put another set of single quotes next to it, and put a space and then Julie in the second string, when I run this, you can see we return to the screen hello Julie in one string, and we've simply concatenated these two strings by not including the plus symbol, but writing two string literals next to each other. You could argue that this is not as clean and as easy to read as using the plus operator, but depending on your preference, you have the choice of syntax. And finally, if we want to concatenate strings across different lines, we can use parentheses to do so. So if I set a variable called welcome to equal parentheses, and then in the first string I put welcome to the game with a comma and a space, and on a new line I put the string Julie. When I then take a look to see what's stored in the welcome variable, we get welcome to the game Julie returned to the screen. So numerous ways that we're able to concatenate strings together. Just note that when you concatenate strings, it will return them as if they are one string. Now we can also perform concatenation using the star operator or the multiply operator. So for example, if I set a variable called repeat and set this equal to the string hello with a space, and then after the string I multiply this by 3. If I were to print to the screen what's now stored in the repeat variable, you can see we print hello, 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 separated by a space, and the third hello would also have a space at the end. So we can use the star operator or the multiply symbol to repeat the string for a given number of times, if your use case requires it. Concatenation is a very useful operation when working with strings, so make sure you're comfortable with concatenation because you'll never know when you might need it. In the next video, we're going to take a look at string membership. Now sometimes you'll run into a use case where you want to check to see if a string is contained in another string. So this may be checking to see whether there's a character in a specific string or a combination of characters in a specific string. And you'll see that it comes in very useful when we get onto the topic of conditional statements. But for now, let me quickly show you how this works. If I wanted to check to see if the letter A is in hamburger, I can put A in single quotes, I can then use the keyword in, and then I can follow it with the string that I'm checking in. So I can put hamburger. Now this is known as a membership test, and it will either bring back one of two results, the Boolean value true or the Boolean value false. And depending on whether this evaluates to true or false, we can get Python to then execute a specific piece of code based on the outcome. So if I run this code cell, you can see that we get true returned. Now another keyword I can use in this membership test is preceding the in keyword with the keyword not. So if I put the letter E and then not in the string chicken, you can see that we bring back false. Because E is in the word chicken, it therefore evaluates to true. Because we're checking to see if it is not in, it therefore brings back the opposite Boolean, which is false. Now here we're just checking string literals, but we can assign a string to a variable. So if we create a variable called juice and set this equal to apple and strawberry, if I now check to see if apple with a lowercase a is in juice, what do you think I'll return? Well, if I run this code cell, you'll see that I get false returned. And this is because the membership test is case sensitive. So if I were to change this to be apple with a capital A in juice, which we know is set to apple and strawberry, you can see that we then bring back true as the result. And we could then write some code that does something based on this membership test evaluation of true. Okay, so just for completeness, we'll also show how we can compare variables to variables. So if I set a variable called raffle_ticket, and I set this equal to the string 158A, and then I create a winning ticket variable called winner and set this also equal to 158A. You can see that I could check to see if winner is in raffle_ticket, and when I run this code cell, we bring back true as the result. Okay, and one final thing to note with string membership is that you can't use integers when comparing to strings. For example, if I check to see that the integer 1, i.e. without quotes, is in winner, which we know it is, we know winner is 158A, you can see here that when I run this code cell, we run into a type error, telling us that the in string, i.e. in winner, requires a string as the left operand and not int. So if we address this, we'd need to put quotes around the left operand, which in this case is the integer 1, and you can see that when I rerun this code cell, we bring back true. So in summary, when we use the in operator, it checks to see that the item on the left is in the item on the right. The result will evaluate to true if it finds a variable in the specified sequence, i.e. in this case a string, and false otherwise. When we use the not in operator, it evaluates to true if it does not find a variable in the specified string, and false otherwise. Now we'll also come across membership testing when we look at other data structures, but this is how it works for string objects.